and welcome to the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast with your host, me, Mike Sarraille, and I've got a great guest, Anika, which I've been struggling with her name all day. It was Anika, and she didn't even correct me, but when she would pronounce it, I would get it. Anicka Newell, who is a total stud, an everyday warrior in her own right, two-time Olympian for Canada, which we're gonna forgive you for that one. But I mean, so you are a dual citizen.
I am.
The U.S. of A. and Canada.
Yep.
Okay, right on. Let's dive right in.
Okay, let's do it.
We did get a workout in earlier, which I got to tell you, that's the first time I've sprinted in God knows how long. I can't even remember.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried about your hip today.
Yeah. It's I went immediately to an ice bath when I got home. So
good for you.
Thank you. I will be hitting the ice bath all the way until I leave for Florida on Sunday for skydiving. But Anika, I want to get into let's go back into your youth.
Okay.
Let's go. Where did you start?
Take it back.
Middle, beginning, end?
Well, I was raised in New Mexico, actually. And so that's where I did sports and athletics and found my love for track and field. From there, got a scholarship to Texas State University, which is how I ended up in Texas. Fulfilled my whole 4 years of eligibility and then turned pro after that.
But you were born in Texas, is that correct?
I was born in Texas.
And then at what age did you move to Albuquerque?
Like 3 weeks.
No, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
So your parents knew
away.
they were moving?
Yeah, well, my dad had a job, and so just picked up everything and went.
And you spent your entire grammar school, elementary, high school in New Mexico?
Yep, in Albuquerque.
And you were a state champ in multiple events, is that correct?
I was, yes.
What sports did you grow up playing? Or was it always just sort of track?
It was not always track. My dad is very athletic, and he always wanted me to be a runner, like a distance runner. But I did gymnastics for about 10 years, had a serious back injury that took me out from that, which is probably for the best because I'm way too tall for it now. But then after that, I started track and field. Didn't take much to the distance running, so I tried sprinting, long jumping, hurdling, and then my coach one day said, hey, you were a gymnast, let's try you in the pole vault. And I guess the rest is history. That was the best decision of my life. Did
you pick that up pretty quickly, or was that a struggle?
It was a struggle in the sense that New Mexico didn't have very good pole vaulting coaches that didn't know a whole lot about the event. So I actually went back to Texas to do training camps my junior and senior year of high school to learn a little bit more about pole vault. And that's what really kind of boosted me and excelled me.
Was that during the summer?
Yes.
Okay. But you still were a state champ in 3 events, is that correct?
Not to throw any shade on New Mexico, but the athletics are not quite up to par with Texas athletics. So yes, I was a state champ, but that's honestly not saying that much.
Still, hey, when you're a state champ, you're a state champ. Am I right?
I mean, yeah. I'll take the title.
It doesn't matter. Trust me, you were a lot closer to being a state champ in any event than I ever was in high school. I was really good at drinking.
Okay.
I was really good at drinking and partying. And I did have a reputation at parties of jumping into the pool.
Oh, there you go. That's an event.
I know.
Could have done long jump.
So a little about your parents.
Okay.
So your mom was born in Canada?
Yes,
is that correct?
My mom is full maple-blooded Canadian.
Oozing across the border. Yeah, okay. And at what age did she move to the U.S.?
That's a good question, actually. It would have been close to when they were going to have me, actually, because my dad was in the States, and they met in France. So,
no kidding.
Nice little cute love story there. But
what's the background behind that? They just were both on vacation and they met?
I think my mom was doing some work there or like a TA job or something like that. They're both fluent in French, and so I think my dad was on vacation, and they met.
So that begs the question, are you fluent in French?
I'm not. They did not teach it to me. I'm working on it so that by the time that the Paris 2024 Olympics rolls around, I can speak it.
There you go, and that's the next goal, correct?
Oui.
All right. Well, okay, so a foreign love story. She She basically moves to the U.S., marries your father,
Yes.
and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Does the timeline work out where you were born? I mean, is it 9 months after she moved to the U.S., or was it 9 months from France?
You know what? My parents aren't really like that open and talkative. I don't actually know the answer to that. I think they'd be pretty embarrassed to tell me too.
Love is love. It's no place to judge. And you are the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
And you have a younger brother named Tim. Is that correct? Alex. Or no, I'm sorry, Alex.
Yes.
Alex. Mm-hmm. What does Alex do?
Well, he played soccer. He was very good. He came actually to Southwestern on a soccer scholarship. So he was very athletic himself. But growing up, I always picked on him a lot. So.
You just said Southwestern. Was it Southwestern?
In Georgetown, Texas? Right?
In Georgetown. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Southeastern? Southwestern? What?
We're looking
at
in the crowd.
Southwestern, yeah.
What was Texas State? Because Texas State changed their name and...
That was Southwest Texas State.
Southwest Texas State.
Yeah.
Okay. So total athletic family. Did you play soccer yourself?
No, I left that to him.
You left that to him?
Yeah.
Who's the bigger stud? You or your brother?
Me. Obviously.
Good. Okay. So how many colleges were you talking to?
Several, quite a few. And it was, at the end, it was going to be between University of Arkansas or Texas State.
What was it that drew you to Texas State over Arkansas? Because, I mean, Arkansas is a powerhouse, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. And they have a great pole vault system there. But I loved the river running right through campus at Texas State. And I loved the pole vault coach. So
there you go. It's the system that they had worked for you, the location.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I did my college at College Station, and I was, let's just say that was not the same experience as San Marcos.
Probably not.
No, I finished college in 3 years and got the hell out of there. So how did you enjoy Texas State?
Oh, I loved it. I had a great time, had a great experience, especially because of the team that I was on at the time and the coaching that I had. It was spectacular.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, no. First couple years, partied way too hard, but it was a great time. So if you're looking for a party school, Texas State, I think it's pretty up there on top of the college list.
So you excelled in 3 specific events, but you told me earlier when you sort of checked into Texas State, the coaches said, hey, we want you to focus on pole vault.
Yep, they wanted me to be an event-specific athlete.
How did you take that?
I mean, at first I was really upset because I've done so many events and so much training my entire life. It seemed like one event was like just one. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I was able to focus on that and really grow my love for pole vault.
Did you push back against the coaches when they asked you to do that?
Not really, because they were giving me money and I felt like pushback could have ended poorly. So I just kept my mouth shut and did what they asked.
So you just poured into the pole vault?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Beyond just the collegiate athletics and focusing with Texas State, were you still doing camps? Were you still working with other people outside the university in your off time?
Yes. Yep. I pretty much have been coaching for just as long as I've been pole vaulting now, about 10 years at Elite Sports in San Antonio. So I've been coaching all types of kids for years now, and I love it. So
you were even doing that when you were in college?
Even doing that when I was in college, yeah.
You know, that's interesting because in the military at some point you've got to go back and you got to be in charge of training. Did you feel like you learned more coaching?
Yes, way more coaching. I'd find myself like yelling at an athlete to do something and then like, wait a minute, I do that shit. I maybe should practice what I preach. And so into my practices, I was like, okay, I just told my kid to do this. I better do it too.
And did you feel like when you were coaching, it reinforced the fundamentals that maybe you overlooked? It was muscle memory and you're like,
yes.
Okay, now I realize why.
Absolutely. I mean, every day is you're learning more and more about the event, about the sport. So I feel like it was really helpful for me coaching because I was able to understand concepts that I might not have been able to had I not been coaching.
As you say that, now being a 2-time Olympian, do you still feel like you're learning something new every day and growing?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You can never learn enough, really. I feel like you always have to be a student of the sport. You can't ever feel like you've learned it all. So I'm constantly trying to evolve and understand what I can do better.
So we did read, because we do research, and we also call, people in your life to get the unadulterated truth. I'm joking. We don't do that. We don't have the time. That you were a bit of a diva while you were a student at Texas State.
I had a little attitude problem. It's much better now. I've matured. I've worked on it. Seen a therapist. We're good.
If we had asked people in your life, are you still a diva? What do you think they would say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What is it? Did the tattoos because you have a very unique style.
I do.
Did the tattoos start during college, or was that a post-college thing?
No, that was a pre-college thing. Started by being just a very rebellious child.
If I asked your parents, if your parents were here right now, would they say, yeah, she was a lot to deal with?
I don't know, because I don't think they know the extent of what they were dealing with. So I think they were pretty naive to the majority of it. So I think I was a good kid on the surface.
I don't think my parents would say that. But a certain degree of rebelliousness is I've always appreciated that. What I say in the SEAL teams is we almost bred a healthy disrespect for authority.
Okay.
And it served our guys well because it allowed them to push outside or color outside the lines.
I can
we almost
understand
promoted that within our culture.
I can appreciate that for sure. I'm trying to think of me as a coach and my athletes disrespecting me, and I'm gonna shut that down real quick.
Yeah, it's amazing how those roles change. Is you push back against your coaches, but the second you become one, you expect people to get in line. And,
yeah.
Okay, we've all been there. So when you graduated, well, let's step back. Was Rio post-graduation, or was that while you were still?
It was right after I graduated. I mean, within 3 months of my graduation.
3 months of your graduation. So tell me the process of when you started talking to Canada or competing to win a slot on the team.
So in 2016, I was already done with my eligibility with Texas State, and my pole vault coach had said, do you want to try and go pro this year? And I hadn't thought of it until then. I honestly had not. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So we trained our asses off all year and hit the qualification standard. And so started trying to figure out our channels, whether I was going to decide to go US or Canada, because ultimately I was able to make that decision. And so I went through Canada, and then we were talking to the coaching staff and everybody that we needed to make sure that I had all my eligibility with that. Had my passport and everything up to date, and was able to essentially compete for the Canadian team.
Similar to selecting the college, were you looking at both coaching staffs where you felt more comfortable?
It's not necessarily the coaching staff, because you pretty much maintain the coach that you have, that you work with regularly. It's more so about the opportunity. I was just going to see a lot more opportunities competing for Canada than I would the U.S., solely based off of the U.S. has so many athletes, and they have to give opportunities, equal opportunity to all of them. Whereas with Canada, there's not quite as many, so I would receive a lot more attention. I guess that's just the diva in me again.
So Rio was 3 months after your graduation.
Yeah, I got May, June, July. Okay, so I guess four.
Four.
Yeah.
Did you have to go train in Canada with the team?
I just had to show up for the national championships. The Olympic trials, actually. Show up in place first or second at the Olympic trials, and that would guarantee me a spot on the Olympic team.
And you finished?
I finished second.
but you did set a national record for Canada at 15 feet and 3 inches.
Yes, and it was unofficial because it was not a sanctioned competition, which really stinks, but is what it is. So.
Who finished first?
My teammate, Alicia Newman.
And you and Alicia are very competitive from what we
are
read.
Extremely competitive. I love the girl to death, but hell yeah, I want to beat her.
Okay, is she still in the sport?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. Do you guys talk much?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
No, we're good friends.
Good friends, but you have that healthy...
Frenemies.
Healthy competitive rivalry going on.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Do you guys ever trade best practices?
We do. I mean, when I go to Canada sometimes for training camps and training sessions, and her and her coach are both very good and well established there, and so I'll go and train with them and have pole vault sessions with them, and I think that that's great because we really push each other.
When you made that leap from collegiate athletics to pro, was that a leap? Was it scary, or were you pretty much in the range anyways?
I mean, it wasn't necessarily scary. The scary part, I'd say, was scary part was actually just going to the Olympics, because that was just the biggest like arena and stage I had ever been on in my life. But besides that, after that, it's been like a learning experience, and each competition is different, and you don't get to show up with your whole team, dressed in Texas State maroon and gold. Like, you just show up there by yourself, and you're there to compete.
So I've got to ask, what is the feeling during those opening ceremonies? Is that just, do you even remember it, or was it so overwhelming?
It's very vivid it's very vivid for me. The best memory I ever had was walking, you walk through these tunnels under the arena, and you can just feel the vibration, like the noise. And you walk out, and it's just like roaring, and fire goes off, and like cannons and stuff. It's wild. And you walk out there, and the women's pole vault, and you just get like the goosies, and you're looking around like starstruck.
Is that intimidating in a sense? Like, oh shit.
At the first Olympics, it was. At the second, I was in my zone. I was ready to go. No
kidding. And let's talk about Rio.
Okay.
Because we did have an interesting question, but we'll get to that one.
Okay.
From our viewers. Did you feel like you were prepared?
Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest.
No.
Why was that?
I was just young, and it was my first year pro, and I had not been to any other international competitions at all. It was my first one ever, and it was the freaking Olympics, like the pinnacle of sport. So I walked out there, and my throat was like, I absolutely choked.
And how old were you at the time?
21.
Good Lord. 21, and so you're probably standing now next to people maybe you looked up to within the sport?
Yes.
Like, oh my God?
Yeah, some of my pole vaulting idols for sure.
Did you talk to a lot of them?
Well, a lot of times on those competitions, the girls aren't that talkative because they're pretty serious and pretty focused. I'm pretty talkative, so I did try and engage, and I got shut down a couple times. But yeah, it was still fun.
How about afterwards, when the competition's over?
Afterwards, it was really enjoyable. I got to meet a lot of the girls and get to know them, and their personalities came out. It was fun.
If you're 21, what's the average age of a female pole vaulter Olympian, competing?
I'm not sure about the average, but some of the best pole vaulters are typically around 28 to 32. That's kind of the sweet spot for maturity and just understanding of the sport.
That's insane. Yeah, so you're a youngin'.
Yeah.
And they're are they a little dismissive at times?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, It's interesting how I'm sure that's part of their psyche of getting in your head. Did any of those that you looked up to, did they provide any mentorship at the end? Any advice?
At the end, yes. And throughout the years, even, I've been able to talk to them and get to know them. And if I need something, I can call somebody up and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. How can you help me? Or what's your advice on this issue? And they're happy to give it.
Especially, I'm sure, when they're no longer competing in the Olympics, they become a little more
well, some of them still are.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know that. I'm just saying, for some of them.
But yes, not during the competition. They don't want to give you any advice. They do not want you to beat them.
Hey, we all, even though we're competitive, and we were within special operations, we were highly competitive, but you just always respect a competitor. Who's the competitor you respect the most in the sport?
I'd say one of the most respected pole vaulters in the sport has to be Katie Najat. She's a really good friend of mine. She's a U.S. vaulter. One of the most humble, sweet individuals I've ever met. And that girl is a competitor for sure. And she worked her ass off to get where she is. And she was one of those girls who was not afraid to be real and, post on Instagram like the struggle she was going through, but also the fight she was willing to give.
So basically her vulnerability is what you respect most? Is
Absolutely,
that what I'm hearing?
yes.
That's, we talk about that often. In fact, I was on a podcast yesterday with a gentleman who's writing a book about leadership and vulnerability. I don't know why vulnerability is looked at as a weakness. It's the most morally courageous thing you can do. Now, there is a difference, though. Let me between being vulnerable and being a victim.
Yes,
those are two completely
absolutely
different things. And you showed, and I know we're going to get into it, you showed a great degree of vulnerability after these recent Olympics, and maybe not the performance that you had wished.
Right.
And I want to save that. So the question we got about the Olympics as a whole, and particularly Rio, because we know Tokyo was, you competed and you had to leave right away due to the COVID restrictions.
Yes.
Is the Olympic Village really I'm looking for the words, an orgy was the question that I got. It said something like they passed out something like 100,000 condoms amongst the athletes.
That may be true. Don't totally remember. Yeah, it could be around that number.
What if you had your own sort of hypothesis or theory? Is it the stress? What is it that makes the Olympic Village let's just say a party?
It's the buildup. I mean, it's 4 years until each Olympics, and I mean, you work so damn hard for it, and that whole entire year for 365 days, you're counting it down until the day that you compete, and when you finally do, whether it goes good or bad, it's like, I mean, just the biggest sigh of relief afterwards. You just can't even believe what you just performed or what you did, and so you just relax, you let loose.
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there an American swimmer that got arrested in Rio afterwards? And he got just filleted by media. But it's funny, media will jump all over you not knowing what you guys go through. And the guy was probably just letting loose. I think he was done competing.
You know what? He probably was letting loose. But there's ways to do it that are a lot smarter than the way that he did it, for sure.
Agreed.
And safer, especially in a country that you don't know. So he could have done it a little bit, more responsibly. But hey.
A lot can be said about the SEAL teams and how those guys let loose, but I'll refrain from those stories. They remain hidden.
It was a good time.
I have no doubt. Did you stick around afterwards to do a little sightseeing, or no? Did you
yeah, no. In Rio, I got to do all the sightseeing. I went to the beaches. I did everything, just about. It was so much fun, and my family was there, which made it all the more special. And we got to go and see them and explore around Rio with my family, and that was awesome.
Now, did you have to go back to Canada to do like a post-Olympic tour? TV circuit?
There was something. They always host a party for the athletes after back in Canada. It's optional. And at the time, I was pretty much just ready to come home and spend some time back in Texas, actually.
Did you stop training? Did you take a few weeks off after Rio?
After Rio, yes. But years after that, after a big event, you keep competing, actually, for several weeks, which is really difficult because you've just come off such a big high, and then you have to keep training after that, and it's tough. It takes a toll on your body for sure, and your psyche. But so like last year, I trained for a couple weeks after the Olympics, and then decided to shut it down. Just my body was not ready to handle it. Got
it. Let me ask you this: if you look back on your time, was there a specific lesson that you took from Rio that you were going to implement into your life or training afterwards? I mean, what was the realization having competed at that level for the first time?
I mean, how nervous I was walking out into that arena. I promised myself from that day, I was like, I will never show up to a competition feeling like this ever again. Like, I'm going to walk out like, excuse me, but a bad bitch next time. So this will never happen to me again.
Okay, so I've never seen the pictures. Did you shave your head like you do now back then?
This was an accident.
It was an accident?
It was an accident.
Okay, let's get into this. Let's shift focus. When did this accident, I'm using air quotes here, when did this accident happen?
I was, my hairstylist, we were bleaching my hair. I was trying to go like this beautiful strawberry blonde.
But post or pre?
Oh, post.
Yeah, post.
Yeah. And this was, probably in like 2017, 2018. And the bleach, it just reacted to my hair poorly, and this whole side just fell off. My hair just fell off. Luckily, we just made lemonade out of lemons that day. I was like, you know what? I'll just rock it. Let's shave it. Let's do it.
I have that same problem, except I bleached my head and it never came back. I should have entered into litigation with that company, but hey, I'm not about holding other people at fault, so it's okay. When that happened, and you saw that, did that become part of your identity? You're like, hey, this is my, and I'm going to use the words, my bad bitch identity.
It did. It kind of did. I do feel like I have a bit of an edgy look, especially in the pole vault world. So I like to look intimidating when I come onto the runway or step into competitions, because I want to intimidate the competition. Like, I want to look like I'm going to beat you one way or the other, either on or off the track.
And I'm all about intimidating competition, but for you personally, did it, hey, let's be honest. We all have things we do. Did it make you feel more confident? Like, this was your thing. This is who I am.
Well, it took a while to get used to at first. But
and what did the parents say?
Pardon?
Did the parents have a comment or two?
Oh, my mom was like, "Oh, it's cool. It's unique."
Okay.
So they were about it.
All right. and so the sleeve tattoo, you had that. When did that start and when did that end?
Oh gosh, it started in college, but it is still a work in progress, to be honest. If you're gonna get a sleeve, do it all at once. Make sure you have all the money for it. That's my advice.
I actually, my first tattoo, I'm going to date myself here, is 1996. I think that puts you at the age of 3.
Yeah.
Well, I was a brand new freshman at the University of Colorado, so I got the Buffaloes.
Okay.
So I still have
a
it
buffalo tattoo
on my back.
Okay.
And I remember I'd come home. I come from a very strict Catholic family. My dad is a very intimidating guy.
This went well.
My wife laughs because she still intimidates the hell out of me. If I see him calling, if I know I'm in trouble, I just won't answer. But hey, sometimes that's just strong families. But I remember I'd come home for my sister's wedding, and I had my girlfriend with me, and of course we all had our own hotel rooms, and I had my shirt off. I'm wasted at the end of the night, and I thought it was my brother knocking on the door. So I just opened the door, turn around, and start walking back to the bed, and all I feel are these hands come around my neck and force me right down onto the bed, and my girlfriend screaming, and he lets up, and that was the beginning of the end at the time for my dad and I, until I joined the Marine Corps and we reunited. So one tattoo and the after effects, that sort of killed tattoos. Though I am contemplating a sleeve. My dad's getting old. He's 75. I don't think he can do much now, so maybe it's time.
Just wear long sleeve shirts around him.
That's what I thought. I had a shirt on. It was on my shoulder blade. What are the odds? So we come back from Rio. You're out of college. This is the struggle I always hear about Olympic athletes. It's like, hey, if you want us to be really good at our craft, we have to focus full time. Yet it's so hard to sustain yourself from a financial standpoint.
Absolutely.
So you dive right back into training. Are you holding jobs on the side, or is the coaching giving you, some salary?
Coaching gives me some salary for sure. And then while I'm training, I try and do a lot with certain companies that will help me out financially, or getting financial aid actually through Athletics Canada. They try and support their athletes the best that they can, which is really helpful on a month-to-month basis. But they can really only do so much. And then I just would take odd jobs or modeling stuff or social media, and just do the best that I could. Does
that piss off a lot of Olympic athletes? Like, because we're all behind you when the Olympics are on, and then when it's over, it's like, yeah, awesome.
It does, but I think for the most part, we're all understanding. Like, it's just the way the world works, and unfortunately, the sport and the world only cares about our marks on that day. It doesn't care about the work that we do during the week. It doesn't care about the work that we did throughout the year to prepare for this one singular day. So, like, all that stuff is the behind the scenes that nobody else sees.
What do you think about collegiate athletes now taking sponsorships in that
excuse me for one moment, fuck them. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad. I wish that rule had been like around since I was in college. That would have been great. But I'm seeing all these little girls like doing all this social media posting. Part of me is really happy for them, and the other part of me is like, well, they're gonna ruin themselves if they just keep taking every opportunity that comes to them, because if they don't have like an agent or somebody to help them understand through this process, they're just gonna take all these random companies and they don't know what they're doing.
I have a feeling like you would have owned that had that rule been changed during your, the diva. The diva would have come out. Would have owned it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Barstool would have reached out real quick. Let's take our mid-roll pause here, but before we do, we ask 2 questions.
Okay.
And these are the hard questions.
Okay.
The hard truth is we tell it. And sometimes it's a stump the chump, and I don't like to stump the chump, but biggest regret that you have to date?
Honestly, my biggest regret is feeling like I stayed in a comfort zone, feeling like I settled for a really long time in college, not really living up to my potential and not understanding that I had potential. I felt comfortable and I was okay with being average. And it took, it took something that happened for me to realize that I'm not okay with being average, and I wanted to see what I'm capable of. And then after that, I trained my ass off because I was like, I want to know what I can do. And from then on, it was, no stopping me. But I feel like when you just get into this comfort zone, you tend to stay in it. And that's probably my biggest regret, is having been in one for as long as I did. Okay,
then I got 2 questions off that. What allowed you to stay in that comfort zone? What was it? First off, there's nothing average about you. That's funny that you say that. But was it that you're at Texas State, you're a star at the university, so you're good with that? And what was it that kept you in the comfort zone?
I honestly wasn't even a star. I mean, I was, kind of in the middle of the pack, to be honest. But I was happy, I was content, I was partying, I was loving where I was at, I was loving my team, I was doing the workouts, and not really working hard in the workouts, but doing them, and it was just easy.
So then what was the moment, the epiphany, or was it a slow roll?
We had a freshman come in, and she kicked my ass, and I was pissed because I'm very competitive, and as soon as that happened, I was like, nope.
Game on.
All right. The competitive streak came out of me, and I was like, why have I been just sitting in this position for so long?
That's amazing. And sometimes, here's the good thing about being, I'm not old. I'm middle-aged. Is that youth can be the most motivating thing in the world. When somebody comes in full of piss and vinegar, it's almost like a reawakening for you, no matter what age. You're like, you know what, man? I remember being like that. I want to return to that.
Yeah.
Where they're giving everything. Last question.
Okay.
Hardest decision you've ever had to make, whether it's love, life, pole vaulting?
It's a loved one, and I broke off an engagement. And at the time, he was my pole vaulting coach in Louisiana. And I ended up breaking up the engagement because I just didn't see myself living there or being with him forever, even though I did love him a lot. And so I left Louisiana, I packed up all my stuff, and I left. And that was definitely the hardest decision I've had to make.
Well, nobody wants to live in Louisiana. I think the crowd's all shaking their heads. Yes, nobody wants to live in Louisiana. That's an obvious. Was there an age difference there if he was your coach?
No, actually, he was only a year older than me.
Where'd you live in Louisiana?
In Lake Charles.
Lake Charles. Yes, good to visit, to live. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to go spend all my money and then come home promptly. Okay, good. Well, with that, we're going to take a mid-roll break. We will be right back. And we are back with Anicka Newell, 2 times Canadian Olympian pole vault event. I think we left off, you're back from Rio, you're getting back into it. So, 4 years, that's, when you get back from the Olympics, do you sit down with your coaches and come up with a 4-year plan? Or How does that work?
We take it year by year, just because you're primarily trying to make sure that you don't get injured during the process. So we try not to look at the bigger picture, and we take it a little bit slower, one day at a time.
So do you lay out like, hey, here are the competitions we want to hit over this next year, and then let's reassess after that?
I don't start looking into competitions until a little bit closer to competition season. And then I have a sports agent that kind of helps set me up on and lining me up with all the competitions that year.
Do you get to select competitions? I mean, do you have a vote?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could say that I don't want to do something.
How often, I mean, how many of those events are in Canada going back?
There's several that are. Over the COVID years, it was just so difficult to get to Canada, so no one really could, or they didn't host any competitions there, so we kind of went elsewhere over the world.
Yeah, let's dive into that. Justin Trudeau, do you want to put any comments out there publicly? No, I'm betting you no. What do you think about the recent trucker rallies? I mean, that's your home country.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really get intertwined with all of the politics with either country, to be honest. So,
smart call, safe call. Yeah, keep that separate. So, when you're getting ready for Tokyo, what was the new game plan? I mean, you finished 29th in Rio. I mean, do you ever step back and say, "I am 29th in the world"? Did you take any?
It's more like, oh, I'm 29th in the freaking world, like.
Do you know how many young women in the sport would be like, man, I would give anything to be 29th in the world? I mean,
I would give anything to be first in the world.
That is the attitude of a warrior. Do you believe in your heart for this next one that you're going after?
Yes, I believed in my heart for Tokyo. And I still believe that I could have medaled at Tokyo. So Paris, I'm going to be there on the medal stand. Stand
by. We are going to be watching, supporting you. I'm excited. Now I've got a reason to actually watch the Olympics. The Olympics seem to have lost viewership. Yeah. What do you think that is?
I think they just make it so difficult. I had so many of my friends and family say, like, where do I find the women's pole vault and what time is it at? I feel like they need to make something for the audience to where they can lay out a schedule and say, hey, these are the events, these are the times, these are how you find it, these are how you access it, and just make it a lot more simple, because people don't want to put in that work. They don't want to do the research to have to like search for the event. They just want to watch the damn event.
And I gotta say, like, there's a point where like the politics just need to stay out of it.
Yeah, that too.
It's just, dude, let the athletes compete.
Yes,
it taints the true intent of the Olympics. Unless you're a Russian and you're blood doping and taking steroids, then absolutely kick the Russians out. Can we remove that at the end of that? Okay. What, you know what? Okay, never mind. Russia's in the doghouse anyway, so keep that. I approve. That's Mike Sarraille approve. Let's talk about going to Tokyo. Now it's your second time. You're seasoned compared to other Olympians. And what is the average amount that Olympians compete? I mean, is it usually most people only get one shot at the Olympics?
Yeah.
Two? It's one?
Most people only get one shot.
Okay, so you've got a second shot. You've earned it. What's your mindset going into that?
I mean, I was just so focused. I had such tunnel vision the entire time. Like, I only had one focus, and that was to be on the medal stand.
And how did you do in the Olympic trials for Canada that year?
We did not have them that year because of COVID.
So they were going off of
They were going off of marks that year. And if you had the qualifying standard and rankings.
And you still finished within the top two to go?
Yep.
Okay. Now, you make it to finals.
Yes.
You've performed. And I know finals didn't go the way you wanted it to go.
It did not.
Let's talk me through that.
So in the preliminary round, we played it very safe. I have a certain pole series that's, we'll say, easier for me to handle. It's not as big. And so I used that pole series, and I was able to complete the jumps very easily, kind of just breeze through prelims, which is what I intended to do, to get to finals. And in finals, we essentially took the all or nothing attitude. And we brought my biggest poles that I had in my bag. And we're like, you know what? This is what we got to do to be on the medal stand. And I went for it. And unfortunately, the weather conditions and the setup for that day, it wasn't the right call. But I don't regret it.
Was that due to the winds?
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a headwind, which for pole vaulting just really sucks. As you felt today, the wind really pushes the pole around when you're running down the runway, and you want it to be kind of like directly at your back or no wind at all, just so that the pole stays right in line. Because the box is really only a couple feet wide, and you're trying to plan it at the exact perfect position every single time.
First off, Anika, the only thing I felt today was not the wind, it was pain. It was pain.
Okay.
I just happened to have a stick in my hand. So the wind is hitting the pole and affecting your approach.
Yeah.
Were other athletes pulling out their long poles as well, or did you notice they were taking a different approach?
To be honest, you don't really notice the other athletes or what they're doing. Plus, I'm not really acquainted with their series as well.
Gotcha.
So since we're all on different poles, you don't notice those things.
And so you complete your jumps, and it's no mark.
I know I did, yeah.
Do you at least feel proud in the sense that you said all or nothing? Screw it. I'm going for it.
I feel very proud just because I was fearless that day. Like, I just went for it. And so part of me is like, you know what? I was truly giving it my all that day. It just sucks that I walked away with the nothing part and not the all. But I am proud of myself on that aspect. Excuse me.
I'm so thrilled to hear that, because again, you're at the Olympics, dude.
Yeah.
You're at the freaking Olympics. I've worked with high performers, elite performers in the world that can never make it to that level, dude. And I hope you have time to proverbially smell the roses about how awesome that is. Now, you posted something on Instagram that we saw in the research. It was you basically on the pads when you'd hit your no mark, and you again displayed a vulnerability of, hey, I didn't perform how I wanted to perform, how I intended to perform. It affected you mentally, and you needed to take a break.
Yes.
You don't see that, and I know mental health is a huge subject right now. It's not a sign of weakness. We've seen this with Michael Phelps, who talked about the imbalance in his life of performing and what it did to. I mean, we saw Simone Biles,
yeah,
who actually removed herself, and the fact that she took criticism. Well, you know what? Screw those people. I hope one day we can get Simone on here as well, because I want to talk to her about that. But you opened yourself up and basically said, I need to take some time to myself. Explain that to me.
I mean, you have to process. And after the Olympics and when it's over, it's like you have this period of time where everything goes back to normal, and it almost feels like it didn't even happen. So it's like a period of grief, like you just lost something, like it's over, it ended, it died. And especially for me, seeing as I didn't perform how I wanted to, it really felt like a dream died. So I needed to take my time to grieve that and to process everything that went on, and to be able to really like look inside myself and think about what I could have done or what I should have done, or moving forward, what needs to be done next time.
What was that process for you? Was it a vacation? Was it nature? Was it staying at home?
I went and visited family first and foremost. Yeah.
Is that your rock?
Yeah. Family and friends. Those are my rock for sure through that time. They really boosted me, and I needed them. Like, I relied on them, and I'm not, afraid to say that. I'm happy to lean on people in a time of need.
Was there a moment you broke down just in tears?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
Was
yeah.
Was it in Tokyo, or was it?
No. You know what? I did in Tokyo too, but I was more in shock than anything else.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really until I got home and looked back, like, what the hell just happened? I broke.
Was this in your home here in Texas?
Yep,
yeah.
In my apartment. Mm-hmm.
By yourself?
Yep.
Dude, that's totally normal. I mean, hell, there's moments I think of the guys we lost, and I just break down in tears, and that was years ago, decades ago. When you were done with that moment, what did you say to yourself?
I said, that's time to get up, and the best athletes have short-term memory loss.
That is a great attribute. You said recently in our conversation today is that you had an epiphany that you are capable of so much more.
Yes.
And that recently happened in the last post Tokyo, that you're like, you know what? Screw it. We're going after it again.
Yep.
What was it? What was that moment?
I felt like on my way to Tokyo, that whole year of training, like we tapped into just some of the potential. Like I got a glimpse of it, and I'm so hungry by it. You know, it was like a teaser, and I know I can accomplish so much more. Like I feel it in my bones. So it's like I'm not ready to step away because I'm not done.
Do you feel these next few years are going to be the strongest years of your life? Because I remember being 21, and honestly, it seemed like 28 and 35, that was the peak of my physical performance.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're going to get stronger, faster, better?
Absolutely. Even right now, while I'm just starting my season, I've already hit certain personal records in the weight room. I can feel myself getting stronger on the track, and we're doing certain things technically with my pole vaulting that is proving to be really accomplishing.
Let me, since part of Men's Journal is the fitness component, give me just a breakdown of what you're focusing on in terms of training and then also diet.
Okay. So my week breaks down by weightlifting practices, sprinting practices, tempo practices, and then pole vaulting practices. And then I do a lot of like physical recovery after and before those. But I train anywhere from about 2 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah, so do I.
I love it.
Exactly. I think the audience was like, yeah, of course we do that too. Oh.
Well, but that is my job. That's like my 9 to 5 is working out. So.
And I know you do active recovery. I know you're doing like, the cold plunges and everything else, stretching. Yes. But is there ever a time where you just take 3 days off?
3?
Oh, geez. Did I just hit a nerve? Like, oh.
1 day off.
1 day off?
Yeah, we get Sundays off.
Okay. What are you doing during that Sunday? Nothing? Massages? Anything?
Actually, I usually coach on Sundays.
Money. Go make some money and go train the next generation.
Exactly.
What about diet? How strict are you? And are you using a dietitian, or at this point do you just have it dialed?
I have it dialed in. I know how my body works. I know what it reacts to. I know about how many calories I need to eat in a day. But I am very strict with what I put in my body because I want to make sure that I'm fueling it, right? You don't want to put the wrong things in and your body just doesn't perform for you. So I want to make sure I have as much energy to spare as I can. So
let me ask you about alcohol, because I know, hey, we all, we give ourselves a break and then we really tighten it up as we get closer to competitions. How much drinking do you do? And how does it fluctuate?
Well, everybody's got their vice. And for me, going out and having a couple drinks with some friends is like a stress reliever. So it's like a good balance. I'm not like out there binging and getting blackout or anything like that. But I am doing it to relieve stress and to have some fun, where practice is just so demanding. And when you have a couple of drinks, you let loose. You can just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's I don't know what you're talking about because I don't drink alcohol.
Me neither.
I'm very strict with my diet. I only eat protein. That's all I eat. No carbs, no fat. Okay. What does your next year look like in terms of competitions?
In terms of competitions?
Yeah.
So this year is actually World Championships in the States. It's in Oregon this year.
In Eugene?
Yep.
Okay, at the track.
Track town, gotcha. Yeah. So that's really exciting. because it's just like a hop and skip away. So a lot of my family will be able to come, and that'll be fun. And then past that, we'll see what next year is looking like, but I'll be looking to break some records.
Is the World Championships, do you represent Canada, or is it individual?
Yep.
Okay.
Represent
And
the country.
are you already qualified? It's done, you're in?
Not yet. I'll still have to go again to national trials and basically fight for my spot.
At this point, is it just like you and Alicia just dominating the competition?
Yes.
Quick answer. That's it. Yes.
Yes.
Bottom line. Okay. Good. Let me go here. Well, one, we want to get to questions from the audience. We also had a few questions come in. Well, we had to be very judicious about the questions that came in. I'm going to start with the first one where we told the guy, stop asking the question. One, would you date a United States Marine?
As opposed to like a Canadian Marine? No.
Are there even Canadian Marines?
Just go ahead and send in your resume and I'll take a look at it.
Are you saying you're opposed to military guys?
I didn't say that one bit.
DMs are open? Yeah, okay, to that, if DMs are open, stop DMing me and DM her. Like, my time is valuable as well. This one actually came in from a guy I highly respect. He's on his way to Mount Everest right now.
Wow.
He sent this from the airplane. He said, his name is Elias Sarraille. And if you ever, I'll send you this guy's Instagram account because I make fun of him. I'm like, he's a male model. And he actually was a male model actor before he became an extreme athlete. Okay. And he's ascended Mount Everest multiple times, documentary filmmaker.
This is sounding good. Does he want to date me too?
I will show you pictures after this. I hope Elias, he just sent me some pictures because I'm like, dude.
I'm just kidding.
I told him, I'm like, there's something about your face. I don't know whether I want to kiss you or punch you. But he came to Mount Everest with me for the skydiving expeditions.
Wow, that's awesome.
And even when he's growing his beard, I'm like, are you trimming your beard in a certain way, dude? Because he's got the gray in certain patches, and he's just a really handsome dude, but total stud. He said, what is your pre-launch routine in your mind seconds before you go?
Oh, this is a really good one because every pole vaulter has this routine before they even pick up their pole and start down the runway. It's like a thumbprint to a pole vaulter, basically. So I know exactly where I go to step. I step forward, I step back. And as of last year, actually, I got something tattooed on my hand, and it's a phrase that my mom said to me before the Olympics, and I loved it. So I look at the phrase, and I just imagine all the support that I have from my friends and from my family, and it just immediately I feel the adrenaline rush, and so I pick up the pole, and then I just go.
Can I ask what the phrase is?
It's show the world.
Is your mom your biggest rock?
Both my parents.
Both
really,
parents?
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. My mom is my foundational rock. Yeah. She always has been. My dad is my sort of hand to the ass, or quite proverbially, as we said earlier, the hands around my neck. But I love the old man. I am who I am because of him and my mom. That's great. We have one from Allison, and I'm going to butcher her last name, Bragger, who's with the U.S. Army Neuroscience and Athlete Division. So I'm assuming she's an athlete. I've always wondered if Olympians have a comfort pole, and I have no idea what that is, like us amateurs.
Yes. So we definitely have a pole that's just easy. You can get on it no matter what. You're not worried about getting rejected, getting spit out, and not making it into the pit. So yes, we definitely have a comfort pole, but it does change for us midway through the year when I'm not quite as strong. I have one comfort pole, and then towards the end of the year, I have a totally different comfort pole, and it changes. But I used to like to name them.
What are some of the names?
My favorite one to date, Mary Jane, because she gets me high.
Because she gets you high. I love that. I don't think I ever named any of my rifles, but yeah, okay. Right on. Do you use visualization before you go?
Yep. I actually just took on a challenge this year, and I'm only 11 days in, but I'm trying to visualize myself taking the perfect vault 3 times in a row, and I'm trying to do it for 100 days straight.
Where do you do the visualization? Is it in your apartment or is it when you're training?
Yep, literally just in my bed at night before I go to sleep. But I visualize on different arenas.
Do you have any mental or spiritual sort of procedures that you have personally, meditation, breathing, that you use for your balance?
Breathing, yes. I've tried meditating. You got to be really mentally strong to sit there just in complete silence and meditate for periods of time. So I'm working on that. But I mean, I do feel like it does make a difference, and that's why I'm trying to pursue it.
It is difficult to maintain that silence and concentrate.
Yeah, it's a different type of training.
Oh yeah, it becomes especially difficult when you're married. Okay, well, hopefully that's not in your horizon. Focus on the Olympics. Okay. With that, I do want to open any questions to the audience that's here at Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question for Anika? Yes, we got one.
What is the most common pole vaulting injury?
Okay, and I'm going to repeat that for the audience. What is the most common pole vaulting injury?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the most common, but I'll also tell you the most unique that I saw. So the most common is back problems, just because you take so much impact when you take off the ground. The pole is literally pushing energy backwards while you're trying to go forwards, and so you just take so much force through your lower back when that happens. So back injuries. But the craziest thing I ever saw happen to my teammate, he went up over the bar, and the pole, the wind pushed it under the bar, and it speared him. He got shish kebabbed by it and lacerated a kidney. That's Mantown.
Right there.
And that actually tends to happen like every so often. So
Wow.
not as common, but happens.
When we worked out today, Anika said, "Hey, have you ever pole vaulted?" And I, sort of put on my man voice. I'm like, "Well, actually, in special operations, we learned to pole vault across large canyons with our combat equipment." And you were looking at me, you're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "I'm joking, dude. I'm joking."
Hey, I mean, get some bamboo. Like, you got to jump across the marshes.
Yeah,
I don't
there you
know.
go. Any other questions? Yes, right here.
What advice would you give to an athlete who is third attempt opening height in the moment? What would you if you could talk to them, what would you say?
What is the advice you'd give to an athlete on a
Third attempt.
at an opening height?
Smile. It's not as extreme as you're making it in your head. Third attempts feel very daunting, especially at an opening height. You start freaking out. At the end of the day, you're there to have fun. Smile, you're going to be okay.
Do you operate better under pressure?
Oh, I love pressure.
That's when the bad bitch comes out?
Oh, yeah.
Do you do the hair thing?
The hair thing? It's not like a little bend and flick. I don't know. What's the hair thing?
I don't know. You got it in the ponytail. Is this how you wear your hair?
This is how I wear my hair.
Do you have the same size nails?
Yes. Yep.
Those don't get in the way at all?
Nope, not at all.
Have you ever cracked it or just flipped off?
Yeah. And my kids at the gym know if I break a nail, it's a bad day. Don't talk to me.
Oh, trust me, I know. I've learned this the hard way. So, Anika, first off, I can't thank you enough for joining us. And we're going to close this out, and I got a few closing remarks. But we close with 2 questions. And, yeah, you may be 28.
Okay.
You've lived a life that 99.99 repeating many of us have not lived. And you've learned some amazing things along the way. And even though you're in your early days, have you ever thought about how will Anika look back and measure whether she's lived a fulfilling, purpose-driven life?
I have looked at that specifically because there has been 2 moments where I thought to myself, am I ready to quit track? And then I thought, no, because I haven't given it my all yet. I haven't left everything that I have on the track. And so part of that is going to come from me really fulfilling my dreams, or at least doing my damnedest to fulfill my dreams. And that's really the way that I'm going to be ready to go out. And then for the rest of my life, I'll be content and I'll be ready to spread my knowledge and enjoy the rest of my life from then on out.
Hell yes. Hell yes. What are those 1, 2, 3 keys of success for you? Those non-negotiables that you just will not break. And I know we all break our own tenets, but what are those things that you hold dear that are the keys to your success thus far in life?
So the first one is hard work. I train by myself, and in order to do that, I have to be very self-motivated, and I feel like I have to work harder than an athlete that has teammates or coaches out there to push them, just because it's all coming from within me. So it's got to be an extreme work ethic, and that's the first one. The second one, equally important to me, is have fun. I'm not doing pole vault for anybody but myself. I love it. Like, I look forward to pole vault practices. As soon as I finish one, I'm like ready for the next pole vaulting day, which I only get 2 vault days a week. So I'm like Monday, I'm like ready for Thursday already to come around because I love it. So have fun. The third one would really, this might be my stumper because those are the 2 main ones for me.
It can be 2.
Probably just the 2. Hard work and have fun.
You know, it's funny. We just interviewed Sammy Hagar, and I asked him, because I don't know much about the music industry, I said, hey, did you outwork your other people? Because he's highly successful. He's like, 100%. When people were out partying, I was jamming. I was jamming. And then to have fun, yeah, you got to find a way to make hard work fun.
Yeah.
Well, Anika, you know, I said earlier, this is Men's Journal, and as you can guess, the preponderance of our demographic is men. But some of the most amazing women in my life are some of my most dear mentors, from my wife to my mother to some kick-ass business leaders out there. And so, guys, take that on board. I don't think there's any 2 better rules in life to work your ass off and to say screw it and have some fun doing it. So, guys, I want to thank you again on behalf of Men's Journal, the Everyday Warrior. Anika, dude, you are the epitome and definition of a warrior and the mindset that it requires. Thank you for joining us. And I think you're hitting Austin for the rest of the night to let loose a little bit.
I'm hitting the town.
There you go. So will we. All right, guys, until next time.